Today I'm canning spiced apple rings, and I'm using Granny Smith apples, and I bought some that are small enough to fit into a wide mouth pint jar. The first thing I need to do is peel them, slice them, and core them, and this little gadget does that all in one shot. And I'm sure y'all have seen one of these before, but did you know that they also make something similar to this that will peel oranges? You know me and gadgets, I have one of those on order. So when I get that one, I'll do a video. Let's see how that works. Hopefully it'll work out, and that'll make canning oranges a breeze. So I'm just dropping the apples into this bowl of water that's treated with Fruit Fresh. By the way, I'm using the USDA's recipe for this, and I'm making half a recipe. So to make the syrup, I need to use 6 cups of sugar. Mind you, this is half a recipe. I know this is a lot of sugar. Don't blame me, blame the government. This is their recipe. Now I'm adding 3 cups of water, a little over half a cup of white vinegar, 1½ tablespoons of cloves are in this, whole cloves, and I have 3 ounces of red hot cinnamon candy. These things, red hot cinnamon candy, and about ½ teaspoon of red food coloring. So I'm going to heat this to a boil and simmer it for 3 minutes. Okay, the 3 minutes is up. My syrup is ready. My jars are hot and ready. And I have my lids and rings at a simmer. I take a hot jar. Then I fill it with the apple rings. And I'm separating these so that the liquid can get up in between them. Then add the syrup and fill it to within ½ inch of the top. These apples are raw, so they're going to float, so you'll have to push it down to see just how much liquid you have in there. That's about a ½ inch headspace. Now I'm going to wipe the rim of the jar clean, add a hot lid, a hot ring. I heat my rings, but you don't have to if you don't want to. Now tighten it firmly. Now I'm going to set it in the canner to stay warm until I have all the jars full. All of the jars are full, so now I'm going to drop the rack down into the canner, put the lid on, and once the water comes back to a boil, I'm going to process these jars for 10 minutes. Always make sure that there's at least 1 inch of water covering the jars. Okay, when the time was up, I turned off the heat, I removed the lid, and I let the canner sit for at least 5 minutes. Now I'm going to remove the jars and set them on the counter on a towel to cool. Tomorrow I'll remove the rings, wash the jars, write spiced apple rings on the top and the date that I canned them. And from 10 apples, I got 6 pints of these apple rings, and I had enough syrup left that I canned up that a pint of the syrup. Since these apples float, the day after I canned them, after the lids had sealed and the jars had cooled down, I flipped the jars upside down so that the apples that were on the top could soak in the syrup. Now that's not to be confused with what Grandma did when she canned things and flipped the jars upside down. The lids we use today need to vent, so you need to keep them upright until they have sealed and cooled. A lot of people use these as gifts, but if I was to use these as a gift, I would put the apple rings in sideways like that. I think that looks better than this because of the floating. I think I would also make the syrup a darker red if I was going to give them away as gifts. But they taste real good. They taste like store-bought, but they're not quite as firm. And I wish that I had a thought about it when I did it, but if you add Pickle Crisp to the apples, they will firm up. After these had cooled down, I opened them up and added 1/8 of a teaspoon of Pickle Crisp and let it sit at room temperature until the Pickle Crisp had dissolved. Then I put them in the refrigerator and it firmed them up quite a bit. They're still not quite as firm as store-bought, but it's a lot better. So the next time I can these, I would add 1/8 of a teaspoon of Pickle Crisp when I can them. So you can see they're a little bit limper than store-bought, but then they're thinner too. So this is how they turned out. They taste real good. And I'd say the firmness is pretty close to store-bought now since I added the Pickle Crisp. So that's how I can spice apple rings. I hope it helps.